Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Shed That Shit podcast. I am your co-host, Alyx Coble-Frakes, the founder and CEO of the Menstrual Period app, alongside Aljolynn, the CMO of Ladybox. We are joined today by Brittany Corona. She is a coach, consultant, and she helps women, and she is on a mission to prioritize self-care, goal setting, and accountability so they can live a healthy lifestyle and thrive while living a fulfilled, happy, and healthy life. We are so excited for you to be here with us today, Brittany. So we're going to just jump in with a cycle check-in. So I'm not sure who wants to go first. Maybe you, Aljolynn. How are you checking in with your cycle today?
So I'm checking in with some full moon energy, I guess. I don't know. I'm focused. I'm feeling focused, slightly anxious only, but that's more situational because waiting on some big news, hopefully. And but interestingly enough, when I went to the toilet, I noticed that there was like a little bit of withdrawal. So I have some withdrawal happening today, which is kind of nice to see. I always get excited. My partner is like, "Why are you happy that there's blood coming out of you?" And I'm like, I don't know. I feel like that's like a healthy indicator. So let me live my life. I'm happy about this withdrawal.
Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, there is definitely I think extra level of intensity when we're having the full moon and any kind of like full moon energy is so intense. So yeah, I think it could definitely kick up some anxiety, especially when those two things coincide. Holy cannoli, lady. Brittany, how about you? How are you checking in with your cycle today?
So today I actually got a biopsy done and got my IUD taken out. And to be honest, it was really painful, but I wanted to be authentic and raw and candid about my experience. And so that's why I scheduled this call right after, just to kind of give a perspective of what that's like. And also kind of fearful because I may have cancer and I don't know for sure. I'll find out in the next week if my polyp is cancerous. And then just like I think that procedure might have prompted my period to start. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, just really crampy today. And just trying to minimize the pain. I actually have my chihuahua on my lap as a living heating pad. So luckily I have two chihuahuas that are nurse dogs. And so, yeah, other than that, I'm really optimistic and just trying to have a positive attitude to kind of carry me through this.
Well, thank you for sharing that. That is a lot to be bringing to the call, and there is space here to hold all of that. So thank you for being here. And there could be a period coming on. It also sometimes when they're like messing around near the cervix can get really tender. So there could be some bleeding from that. So we are just sending you really good love and energy today. And thank you for being vulnerable and being willing to share some of the story so other folks can hear themselves reflected in that as well. So we're going to dive more into your story in a couple of seconds. I'll just wrap it up with saying I am also on my period today. So I've been having my period's been a little bit funky. There's just been an extreme amount of stress, which is why I'm really thankful for cycle tracking. My period started about a week earlier than I was anticipating, but it started with about 3 to 4 days of spotting, which really doesn't happen to me often. So that's an indicator of can be an indicator of low progesterone, which can also happen when you're having really high levels of cortisol. So really high levels of stress can lower your progesterone levels. And so it's just something I'm like, oh, okay, that's something I need to clue into. How can I lower that stress load for my body so that I can have the right levels of progesterone? Because now I'm like riding through a period induced migraine, which never happens to me. And so these things are just really important so we can understand how to get that support. So luckily I know how to pivot with that information and really move towards some of those self-care tips. But again, why this podcast and the work that we do is really important, because so many times. And even if this had happened at other times in my life, I wouldn't have had the access to the information to know how to start course correcting. So just really happy to be with you all today. And yeah, that is our cycle check-in. So let's dive into the interview.
Yeah, so well, one, Alex, I hope you have some main, I mean, I'm glad that you know what to do to help you recalibrate. It sucks
All of the
feeling
same.
off, but yeah, hopefully you have some main. So Brittany, you and I know each other from the co-working space that we work at sometimes. And you've shared before that like your periods have been painful, and I mean, congrats on having your IUD removed. Congrats on getting a biopsy and being in the stages of, you know, trying to figure out what's going on with your body. Do you, can you share a little bit more about like your period story essentially, and like how it's brought you to where you're at today?
Sure. So I've had painful, heavy periods since I started my period in middle school. And I've always been told that I probably have endometriosis. And so I never actually had the surgery to find out, but I've been basically for at least 1 week of the month in a lot of pain, and sometimes having to like call out from work or school because of the pain, and even at times becoming anemic from losing so much blood. And so I have really struggled to like feel empowered sometimes. Even during that time, I feel kind of not sure how to describe it, like not like not disabled, but debilitated during that time. It makes you feel like you're not able to live your life the way that you want to. Like you feel like your period is kind of setting you back. And so I wanted to feel more empowered during that time of the month. And when I was struggling really bad with it and my periods were getting worse and worse, I actually went in and I ended up going into the emergency doctor, into the ER at one time for the pain, and had a CAT scan done, a CT scan, and found out that I like it was kind of scary because they thought at one time I had an ectopic pregnancy. But they did the CAT scan and I actually had a cyst on my ovary that burst. So I did have a problem with that at once. Tried birth control and it actually made it worse, and was still getting fibroids with birth control. So not only did I have cysts, but I had fibroids. And so when I was at my lowest point, then I decided that I wanted to try natural medicine to help with the problem, because birth control was just making it worse, hormonal birth control to be specific. And so I got this book called, I think it's called The Period Manual. I'll have to get the details on that for your show notes in case anyone wants to read it. But I was able at one point, and maybe it's something I want to revisit again, but at the point where I was told that I needed to have surgery and partial hysterectomy when I was still in my 20s, I was able to follow what supplements it recommended in the diet that was recommended for my issues, and reverse my need for surgery, which I thought was really powerful. And so I continued to take those supplements and was able to manage my symptoms pretty well. But then I decided that I wanted to try an IUD. And one thing that's kind of risky about that is if you have fibroids, it can make your symptoms worse. And I decided to take that risk, and it was a mistake. So if you're a lady out there with fibroids and you decide to get a non-hormonal IUD, like a copper IUD, I just want to caution you to look into it. But it did make my symptoms worse. My periods were longer than 2 weeks, a month, and very heavy the whole time. I would pass out or feel the urge to pass, like I was gonna pass out monthly, and had to call 911 a few times. And it was pretty scary because I was living by myself and didn't know if I would pass out and if someone would find me alive or not. And so today, I finally, after months of waiting, because with my doctor, my insurance, they didn't have anything available where I could come in and get my IUD out, and it had to be a specialist because I got a ultrasound recently, and they found out there was a polyp wrapped around my IUD, which was really scary because you can, if a doctor takes it out, the IUD, and it's like embedded or if it's in the way obstructing the IUD, it could be really dangerous, and you could bleed a lot if they don't take it out properly. So I had to wait for a specialist to take it out, a specialist that was a gynecologist. And so I finally got it out today. And the IUD was actually one of the main causes of my period lasting longer than 2 weeks and it being really heavy and being progressively worse every month. And so I got my IUD taken out today, and then I got a biopsy for my polyp to make sure it wasn't cancerous. So I looked into it, and luckily there's only like a 1% chance that a polyp is cancerous. So that's pretty good chances that I don't have cancer, which I'm really thankful for. So I'm getting a surgery scheduled to get it removed next month, and then finding out in about a week if I have cancer or not, and then hopefully try some new treatments for the fibroids that don't impact my fertility. So I'm looking into options for that right now so that I can find a way to live in less pain while I'm on my period and have my cycle. So yeah, that's what I've been, in a nutshell, dealing with my period.
Holy shit. That is like so much. I am just sending so much love and healing energy to you because, oh my God, going through all of that is, any one of those things alone is really intense. So I hope that there's some light at the end of the tunnel here in terms of the healing journey. What I think is really interesting that I'd love to talk about a little bit more is that you said before you went down this path of the IUD, you had actually seen a lot of results by choosing some holistic options that were going to help you avoid surgery. And so what's so frustrating, so awesome about that, but so frustrating is that you weren't given that first. Like you had to, it sounds like you had to go out and find that information on your own rather than like the doctor or the hospital system saying like, hey, try these things first to help you avoid the surgery. Is that correct?
That's correct. I actually didn't even have that option. It was with my own research. Luckily, I like to look into things for myself, and I don't accept diagnosis and treatment recommendations from an MD doctor automatically because luckily my body is very sensitive, and I've had a lot of adverse side effects to artificial hormones and artificial ingredients and medications and antibiotics, and have a lot of allergies because of that. And so luckily because I know the adverse side effects that I do get from modern medicine, sometimes I do like don't automatically accept what is told to me by a doctor. I listen to my body, and I also use my intuition and my own knowledge and things that I can be empowered to look into for myself to figure out what's the best thing for me.
Totally. And if that's resonating, definitely. I think you were talking about the period repair manual. Let us know if that's correct. It's Laura Bryden.
That's it. Yeah.
Dr. Laura Bryden. She's awesome. But it's just really unfortunate. I think paints a pretty clear picture of our current state of things, that wasn't just like option number one instead of something you had to dig up on your own. It really shows the enormous lack of information and gap that still exists for women and menstruators in this space. So thank you for sharing some about that with us.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I still am seeing a naturopath doctor and an acupuncturist to help with my fibroids and my menstruation pain and flow. And I really truly think that it was the IUD that just made it, I don't know exactly, but it made it feel less manageable with a foreign object like that in my uterus to manage things naturally. So unfortunately, it got to the point where, yes, I am going to need surgery now, but I think that if I hadn't gotten the IUD, I probably would not have needed surgery, and that I probably, if I would have just at the start managed things naturally, I probably would be a lot healthier. But I still have the opportunity to get back on track and hopefully preserve my fertility. And I'm 34, just to give you guys perspective. I haven't had kids yet, and I'm hoping that I can preserve my fertility. And luckily, it hasn't gotten to the point where what I've experienced hasn't impacted my fertility, and I'm still fertile. So I'm really grateful for that.
That's good. I have a couple questions. Can you remind us when or how long you've had the IUD?
I've had the IUD for a little less than a year. So
less than a year. Okay.
Yeah. And
okay.
what I was told was, because I started having bad symptoms immediately after, and I was told that that was normal to have heavy bleeding and longer periods. And so I felt ignored. And then after that, they said it would be better after 6 months. No, it just got worse. Very rapidly. It was really scary. So definitely for those of you that are considering getting an IUD, pay attention to your period while you're on it, because it's definitely was concerning that things just got progressively worse after that time where they said things should start to get better.
Yeah. I went through something similar when I got the Mirena put in, but yeah, I would definitely, I wish I had known more about cycle tracking and not thinking that it was just like, oh, I'm doing the rhythm method. No, it's just cycle tracking. I wish I'd learned more about it before, but didn't really start understanding about my periods or cycles, unfortunately, until after I got the IUD in. So yeah, if you are able to connect with Alex or check out the agenda, there's more resources available now to help you learn how to do some cycle tracking and finding ways to help balance your hormones, which is the more a good starting point. And then if that's still not working, then obviously, yes, please connect with your medical practitioner on that. But anyway, aside from that, you talked about not feeling empowered during your periods, or, you know, just throughout your cycle life. How have you been able to help empower yourself? Because I mean, you did mention that like you wanted to do the research before you just like jump on what this doctor is saying, which is a very self-empowered move. So what's a message that you could share with listeners today to help them feel empowered, even though they're, you know, maybe going through a lot of pain and feelings of disempowerment?
I felt empowered and still do feel empowered to be an advocate for my own health and exploring the natural options to help myself take the best care of myself as possible. And one thing that I would say that has actually been a strength for me is just choosing not to suffer. I feel like pain may not be a choice, but choosing to suffer is, because you can be in pain, but I feel like you can, whether or not you choose to suffer with that pain is a choice. And so I have been through lots of trauma in my early life and some of my early adulthood life, and had lots of medical issues that I felt the same way I did with my period issues. And I felt like I did not want to choose to suffer any longer. Like I felt like choosing to suffer is not an option for me anymore. And so I wanted to choose to be empowered so that I could be at peace in my own body and feel good in my own body, because I feel like that's what I deserve, and that's practicing self-love and worthiness, is really choosing to do what is best for your body so that you do not suffer.
I love that. I feel like that could be a t-shirt or something. I choose not to suffer. That's a really good message. Thank you, Brittany. How can people learn more about you? Where can they visit, you know, you or connect with you on social media?
So I actually have a link tree, and I can share the link with you on that. I'm on Instagram at Brittany Corona Coaching. I also have my personal Instagram at Brittany A. Corona. And I'm also on LinkedIn and Facebook. And so I will share my link tree so you have access to that. And I'm also, I have my own Facebook group, Resilient and Unstoppable Women Leaders and Entrepreneurs, where I focus on helping women holistically be empowered to thrive in the work that they do. And so I will share that as well.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Brittany. Thank you for doing this interview today after having a procedure done, getting your ID removed and just feeling uncomfortable. Hopefully you felt, hopefully you're feeling a little comfortable as you were, you know, chatting with us today. And yeah, just thank you for sharing your story. I hope listeners, you know, you were able to get some sense of empowerment from today's interview. And feel free to reach out and connect with Brittany on Instagram, Brittany Corona Coaching, and we'll be sure to include other points of contact in our show notes. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing, you know, how you shed that shit, Brittany, and we are sending you so much healing and support while you go through this. Keep us posted, please. And yeah, that's it. So until next time, listeners, keep it real and messy, just like periods. Thanks for listening.
Thank you.